2007. A video camera shows a grainy, dark image of a couple. They're in their 20s and they're fast asleep in their bed. Everything seems normal. It's very quiet, very still. Until... Through the early 21st century, the big horror franchises had mainly consisted of slashers and torture porns, with the Saw, Hostel and Final Destination movies dominating the box office. However, with Paranormal Activity in 2007, everything changed. Director Oren Peli made a tiny-budget supernatural horror movie in his own house, filmed mostly in one bedroom. And the film not only became one of the biggest grossing horror movies of all time, it not only sparked a slew of sequels and imitators, it also popularised a brand new dominant subgenre of horror invented by the Blair Witch 10 years earlier, known today as found footage. Join me as we continue exploring the evolution of the ghost story, and we explore the things that go bump in the night with Oren Peli's Paranormal Activity.
Something's here. I feel it breathing on me.
Welcome back to the Evolution of Horror. My name is Mike, and as ever, I am your host. If you're tuning in for the first time, then welcome. In this podcast, we explore and dissect the evolution of the horror genre by looking at particular subgenres across a number of weeks. We are currently in the midst of exploring the evolution of the ghost story, and this is part 16, can you believe it, in which we are going to be exploring all things Paranormal Activity. Now, this is your big fat spoiler warning. We are going to be talking about the original Paranormal Activity in detail from beginning to end, and we are then going to be talking about the sequels. Now, we're not going to be talking about all of them in depth, but we will be mentioning details of what happens at the end of pretty much all of these movies. So I guess, spoiler alert for the entire Paranormal Activity series. That's part 2, part 3, part 4, the marked ones, and Ghost Dimension. All of those movies we will be touching upon in some kind of spoilery way. Now, before we get started, here are a few contact details. You can email us. The email address is evolutionofhorror@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter @evolutionpod, on Letterboxd @evolutionpod, or on Facebook. That's facebook.com/evolutionofhorror. There is also a Facebook discussion group. That's the Evolution of Horror discussion group that can be found on Facebook. And as we hurtle towards the end of our series on ghost stories, I am going to be revealing very soon on social media what the next series is going to focus on and what films we're going to be covering across the summer. So if you want to keep up to date with that and find out what subgenre we're going to be looking at next, please do follow us on those social media platforms. But let's get started. To join me to discuss all things Paranormal Activity, I'm very, very excited to have him back. He's been on the podcast before. He is a critic and journalist for The Independent, and he has also recently started his own podcast called The Lost Boys. It is my great pleasure to welcome back my good friend, Jacob Stolworthy. Jakey, welcome back.
Hello.
Hello again. Lovely to have you back.
It's good to be back.
Excellent. Last time you were here, we were talking about slasher movies, Halloween. That's one of your faves.
It is my favourite horror film, so it was an honour to be on here chatting about that.
It was fantastic.
Yeah.
Actually, before we get started, I mean, what have you been up to? I mean, you've got a new podcast.
Oh God, yeah. I was inspired, Mike, by being on yours a few months ago. I've got a new podcast which is dedicated to the TV show Lost.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so I'm
really excited by this.
It's really cool. I do it with my colleague who I work with at The Independent,
Yeah.
Jack Shepherd, and anyone who watches Lost will know that Jack shares the name of the lead character of Lost.
Brilliant.
Jack, coupled with the fact that Jack had never seen an episode, he literally knew nothing about it. I was like, wouldn't it be a good idea if, a newbie and an obsessive like myself who's seen it a lot of times, get together and do a podcast?
Yeah.
Because the one thing better than watching Lost is rewatching it with someone who's never watched it.
That's awesome.
So then we called ourselves the Lost Boys and off we went.
So is Lost your favourite ever TV show, would you say?
And it's a funny one because I have seen TV shows since which, like The Leftovers, which, coincidence that maybe it's created by the guy who co-show ran Lost.
Yes.
But Lost came at a time where I hadn't watched TV shows before. I was 13 and it was the first kind of event TV show that I watched where I waited a week for, and it was very formative for me.
Yeah.
I really took to it, and I do think there's, in terms of characters, there is no better TV show.
No.
But obviously, like The Sopranos and The Wire, I love, but Lost did come first for me.
Yeah.
So for that, man, it is my favourite, and I think it gets a rough ride.
Oh, it does. And I think the problem is that this happens with so many TV shows, is that people judge a show by its ending. And I don't want to spoil anything for anyone who may not have seen Lost, but a lot of people weren't satisfied with the way it ended.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes that can leave you with a bad memory of a show, or even just the fact that maybe the last season wasn't as good as the previous ones.
Yeah.
Something like that sometimes can leave people with a bad taste in their mouth, can't it?
Certainly, and I think I was very, 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 very fortunate to interview Damon Lindelof for The Leftovers last year, and he said that because Leftovers is now finished, with The Leftovers he wanted to do what he didn't manage to do with Lost, which was he wants to create end a show that people don't define the series by. And he said that with Lost it's just so frustrating because the first thing everyone says now is, oh, the ending was awful. I mean, I maybe I'm a bit of a fair weather, but I really quite like the ending, but I am an apologist. But yeah, people do define that show by the ending unfairly, because the journey towards an ending is amazing.
Exactly. You forget that you spent 5 years or 6 years. Anyone who made it to the ending, I think, well, what kept you going for 6 years? Something must have kept you going for that long.
Precisely.
You know, fair enough if you gave up midway through season 1, it's not your thing. But like, if you've watched it all the way to the end of season 6 and then go, what a shit show, it's like, no, that's not the case.
That's not completely.
Yeah.
That is exactly
me when people
right.
say that. Yeah.
Man, I swear, about I'd say 75% of my nights out
you're preaching about that.
Yeah, with me pissed somewhere talking about defending the ending of Lost.
Yes.
More than I care to admit.
Amazing. We'll have to get into that at some other point, definitely. I agree though. I was the same way. Like, it felt like for me, I was, you know, of our generation, I suppose, it was like that first kind of proper event television. I remember even being excited by the very first trailer that was like weird.
The weird Channel 4 one,
people kind of dancing in slow-mo on the beach and stuff, and it just said coming soon. It's like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, completely.
Amazing.
There were billboards everywhere for it, and like it was in the paper when there was a big moment in Lost. Like you see, like with Amazon Game of Thrones now, that happened with Lost. Lost really did change so many things, and kind of, you know, the whole idea of like shorter seasons, or like set endings, because Lost did have a set ending by the end of season 3. We have that now, and it's all kind of part and parcel of TV shows. But no, Lost was the first to have that. Yeah,
it did kind of what Twin Peaks had done sort of 10-15 years earlier. It was that same kind of milestone, wasn't it? In a way.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's awesome. Very, very cool. So if people want to find that podcast, what's it called?
So it's called The Lost Boys. We're on Twitter, Lost Boys Pod, and on iTunes you'll find us with a big old Dharma logo.
Love it.
With Jack and Jacob.
Love it.
So please subscribe and listen away, and we just want feedback, really.
Yeah. It's always nice to hear back from people on
it's
these
lovely.
Things, isn't it?
I mean, we're going to be getting some cast members on as well. So if you are a fan, like, there's
cool.
going to be some, you know, hopefully new information to learn.
Yes, love it. Amazing. So back to horror. We're talking about ghost movies, as we've just mentioned. What's your kind of opinion on those types of horror movies?
These films do scare me a lot, probably more than slasher films do. Because Halloween, like we mentioned, like, it is scary, obviously, but it doesn't actually leave me sleepless.
Yes,
these films kind of do. And I think it's kind of, especially when it's presented in a setting which, you know, we can all associate with your own home, your own bedroom or whatever. Yeah, they scare me.
Yeah.
I become a bit of a wuss.
Yeah, I think we all do. These are definitely the ones that scare me the most. And we're specifically this week going to be talking about a sort of subgenre within the subgenre called found footage. So we've never talked about this before, found footage movies.
We're doing a documentary about the Blair Witch. Oh, have you heard of the Blair Witch?
Oh yeah, that's an old story.
First of all, Jacob, could you tell me what is a found footage movie?
What is a found footage movie? It's kind of like they call it a pseudo documentary, where the events depicted are the events are depicted by the characters who are filming it through the device that the characters are filming events on. Whether it be a camcorder or a phone or recently drones, things like that. Yeah. So that's it, really. You're kind of seeing it through the characters' eyes, and you know, when they want to stop you seeing something, they can stop you seeing something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think it was kind of, the term was coined officially from the Blair Witch Project, because it literally starts with, you know, a bunch of kids disappeared in the woods. 5 years later, their footage was found.
This is what was found.
And this is it, kind of a thing.
This is Burkittsville, formerly Blair. It is a small, quiet Maryland town.
much like a small, quiet town anywhere.
I'm going to be honest, that film still terrifies me to this
It's
day.
it's the best.
It's so scary.
Yeah, it's the best.
I watched it when I think we may have... No, I wouldn't have rented it. I was too young then. So I watched it when I was about 11. And I had a friend round. There was this girl who lived up the road, and we watched it, and I was trying to be all Mr. Cool, trying to act like I wasn't scared. But I remember I was in my bedroom watching it late one Saturday night.
Yeah.
My mum was like, "You're going to be scared. Like, why are you going to watch this?" And I was like, "No, I'm not. No." Watched it, and I remember I live right by Oxley's Woods in South East London.
Oh, God.
And I remember afterwards I had to walk her home, and then on the way back I sprinted all the way because I was right by the woods and I was freaking out.
That's not what you want to be walking through woods.
No,
at night,
exactly. I wasn't even in the woods, and I was scared. It was ridiculous.
Did you believe at that age that what you were seeing was real, or were you aware that it was a?
At that stage, I was aware that it wasn't real, but
Yeah.
I do remember when it came out, I would have been 8 years old, and I vividly remember seeing trailers for it.
Yeah.
And people talking about it, because obviously, and when you're 8 years old, you couldn't even escape. People were talking about the Blair Witch, and I thought it was real, flat out real. And I remember I was just scared by the idea of this film when I was 8. So I think that's why I always wanted to watch it.
Yeah.
Because it had this kind of mystique
Yeah,
surrounding
it did. It did. It absolutely did. It was one of those ones, wasn't it, where you heard it was a bit like Lost. It was kind of the marketing for it, everything about it. You didn't quite know what it was. Just was kind of these like missing posters with 3 faces on and all that kind of stuff. I was the same. I think I was about 11 or 12 when it came out, and I was just getting into horror at that point, so I was desperate to see it.
Yeah.
Still knew that it was fake the first time I did watch it, but still absolutely loved it. It terrified me. That's the thing. I think found footage gets a bit of a rap now, especially Blair Witch, of it's shit if you know it's not real kind of a thing. But I don't agree with that.
I don't
at
agree
all.
with that.
Yeah, it's still a scary movie.
Completely.
Yeah.
I think, and it's also a very good movie because you can watch it and knowing that and still enjoy it and be scared by it.
Yes.
I mean, that it is almost a shame that this internet age, nothing can really be a mystery anymore.
No,
it is a shame, but it's good that we had that.
Yes,
and Blair Witch is a shining example that once did exist.
Yeah,
and you can show people now, and they're like, "What? People actually thought this was what? That's crazy."
Yeah.
And that's quite cool.
Yeah, and then so that kind of it. I don't think still even after Blair Witch in the sort of late 90s, early noughties, we didn't have found footage as a big phenomenon just yet. It still kind of took a while. For me, it was the movie we're about to discuss, Paranormal Activity, that seemed to absolutely launch it into the mainstream. I suppose the thing about found footage is you can make it for so fucking cheap and make so much money off it, as Blair Witch proved, and then as Paranormal Activity proved. I mean, I don't know what the budget was for Paranormal Activity, but it must have been minimal. I imagine.
Yeah, I remember reading like this. I don't know if there's mistakes surrounding it, but I remember reading that the budget compared to box office takings, I think it was the biggest.
The biggest.
Since the Blair Witch. Maybe.
Since the Blair Witch.
Paranormal Activity continues to scare its way into audiences' hearts. Going into wide release, it took the top spot of the weekend box office, raking in an estimated $22 million. That raises its total to $62.5 million. The film was reportedly made for only $15,000.
So Paranormal Activity then. First of all, could you give me a little plot rundown of what there is of it?
The spontaneous plot rundowns. I love them. So, Katie and Mika in a house. Strange goings on start taunting them at night. So they Mika buys a camera, sets it up in the bedroom to see what's going on. And of course, some horrible shit's going down.
Yeah, shit goes down.
And we see it every night through the video camera that they own. It gets a little bit more sticky with every night.
Yes, it does. It's brilliant the way it sort of builds, actually.
Oh my God.
Time.
Yeah,
it's really clever. Do you remember the first time you ever saw this then?
Yeah, I've got a story about the first time I saw Paranormal Activity. So I was at University of Kent at the time in Canterbury.
Yeah.
And I remember reading about it in Empire magazine thinking, oh my God, this film is going to be a sensation, because it'd been out in America and all the festivals and it'd been getting word of mouth. And I remember noticing that the following week the local Odeon wasn't showing it. And I'm thinking, what the hell? So I called them and I was like, are you planning on showing Paranormal Activity? They're like, no, but what's that? And I was like, this is going to be so big, you're going to be showing it like the week after, because it's going to be number one everywhere. What the hell?
Yeah, the Odeon in Canterbury, shit, I've been there before.
Yeah, it's really cool. I saw Up there and I cried many tears.
Oh, brilliant.
So I've got it's got a soft
okay,
spot,
okay, good.
Soft place in my heart. But and lo and behold, they were a few weeks later showing it, and I wanted to call them up and be like, Anyway, my search for the film took me to a very, very strange and I'm sure very lovely local cinema in Broadstairs, where I went to an evening screening with some pals, and it was very bizarre because people were in there in literally their dressing gowns, like locals.
What?
People were there. There was like a cat in there. Someone brought it was a very weird place to see it.
Oh my God, brilliant.
Yeah. So we saw it, and then I remember going home, and I didn't feel scared at the time, but I got home, got into my room, turned the lights off, and swiftly went knocking on my the person who lived next door to me's room because I was like, I can't sleep alone tonight.
Brilliant.
I was that scared.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that film really plants something, and
it does.
It rears when the lights are off and you're on your own later on that night.
Because that is exactly it, isn't it? It's about what goes on in your bedroom at night while you're asleep. That is a scary concept. Yeah, definitely. For me, it was a mouse last night. I woke up last night to hearing a mouse and thinking, I'd like to set up a camera and see where these little fuckers are coming from, because I could just hear these little mice crawling around in the dark around my bed.
Mate, this could be our short film. Yeah. This could be our film, our first feature, our
set
cheap
up a
film.
mouse cam.
I like that.
Yeah, definitely. So were you a fan then of the movie?
Yeah, completely. I really was, and that's the thing. Like I do think now you see these found footage films, and they're not so good, even if they are enjoyable. But Paranormal Activity I think it's a genuinely terrific film.
Yeah,
I think, like you say, the tension, the way it ratchets is it's so impressive.
Yeah,
and the scares are so effective, and they're planted in a way that they just still work, even though you're anticipating them each time you rewatch it.
Yes,
I'm scared at the anticipation of them.
At knowing what's coming.
For me, I don't get scared in a lot of films, really. I said this to you last time, and I mentioned this one last time as one that does truly scare me, alongside The Witch, for different reasons. But this scares me still.
Yeah, it's good. It's really powerful. I think what's brilliant, we'll go into this in a minute, is just that it achieves so much with so little. Yeah. In a brilliant kind of way. Yeah. I think the first time I saw it, I remember again going back to the marketing, and I think marketing is such a big thing for found footage movies, that especially at this point. And it was the trailer, rather than show you a lot of the film, they would show you shots of the audience watching it. Yeah. Of like a night vision camera in a cinema and watching all the audience scream and lose their minds, basically, over this movie.
Windows are locked, doors are locked, the alarm is on. Hearing a weird sound.
Something's here. I feel it breathing on me.
And that was a great way to market this film, and it was all over the posters. People saying it's the scariest movie they've ever seen, etc., etc. So it was the same way as Blair Witch, where you just had that intrigue of what the hell is going to happen in this movie, kind of thing. Yeah,
super really effective. That
really clever idea. Yeah. So the whole thing focuses on these two characters, Katie and Mika, and I know for a lot of people, that hate this film, they hate those characters. Really? And actually it's the same with the Blair Witch, funnily enough. People find those three characters so unbelievably irritating that they find the film hard to watch. And the same with this movie. What do you think of Katie and Mika as characters?
I quite like that. Yeah. I mean I think Mika, he's a bit of a non-entity, really. Yeah. But I like Katie. I think I 100% like her, and I think they're just so normal. Yeah. And they have a lot of, they don't have a lot of chemistry, but you kind of believe them as a couple.
Yeah, you kind of do in a weird way.
Yeah, you do. And for no other reason, they literally could just be kind of like the boring couple, your auntie knows or something like that. They could just be a random couple. They work. And I think she's suitably hysterical. Yes, she's not only so, she's hysterical because she has every reason to be. Yeah. And you kind of understand her and Mika's plight.
Yes, you do.
Let's talk about this first. I'm in control. I'm making progress.
No, you haven't been having any progress, and you're not in control. It is in control, and if you think you're in control, then you're being an idiot.
Hey.
Not a single thing you've done has helped, and I'm sorry. I don't mean to burst your bubble, but the camera hasn't helped, and the stupid footprints haven't helped. Do you think that thing would have left footprints if it didn't want to? No. It did it because it wanted to. It wanted you to find my photo. It can be anywhere. Here's what we're saying right now.
Hey. How the fuck do you know?
You are absolutely powerless.
Poor Mika. Imagine being in that situation with your girlfriend and you kind of like, I don't want to be around you right now. Yeah. But it's quite a situation.
Although Mika is, he does do some dickish moves at times throughout the movie as well. You just think, oh, fuck you.
Yeah, he's a bit of a knob.
Yeah, he's a bit of a knob at times. Yeah. Because I think, again, with the worst found footage ones, I think the problem with found footage is a lot of the time is, why are you still holding a camera when this is happening to you? I think the worst of that sort of genre is that reason why
completely.
And also I do think the performances do need to be real to a point where you need to believe what you're seeing is quote unquote real, even more than like with just regular films where everything can be a bit stylized and that's part of it. The whole point of found footage is what you're seeing is really happening, and I think the performances need to fit that, and they need to be as naturalistic as possible. And I think that's why I think it works, because they are irritating, and they talk over each other and they say twattish little comments to each other and stuff, particularly him to her. But I kind of believe them as a real couple,
completely
annoying each other in a way.
I do agree with that. I mean, there's not a lot of affection there, but it kind of is weirdly. It is there in the way they do.
In the way they're kind of there for each other and live with each other. I mean,
I do think the film takes on a bit of a tragic. Bit of a tragic turn when you watch it back, because of what happens to them as well. Like it's actually. They're just so normal.
Yeah.
And this kind of awful, really ridiculous, when you break it down, thing is happening to them.
Yes.
And you're like, and it's almost like they are emblems of, if it can happen to them, it could happen to you.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, exactly. And it is it's just a great basic premise that the reason they're filming everything is to catch whatever is happening in their house. It's like that's all you need to know. It's as simple as that. And so that's
simple.
why that's why they're still filming, because they need to find out what the fuck is in their bedroom every night.
Yeah.
So
they just want to know what the hell is going on.
Yeah.
They just want to know what the hell's going on. But it's like he is just like the classic kind of dude who's playing with his new toy as well, isn't he?
Loving all the cameras and everything.
And she's like, why must you do it? And he's like, oh, no, it's cool. Look at this. It's like, mate, no, this is weird. Your girlfriend's like standing watching you for 5 hours every night. It's not right, mate.
Yeah, I know.
Do something about it instead of filming it.
Those moments are just brilliant, aren't they? And I think it starts with just, very minimal sort of amount happening. I think the first night you see, I think nothing really happens apart from maybe a door moving or something. And that is what I think so brilliant about this film. And we talked about this before, I think, but it's the way that you just sit there watching a still frame for like 2 minutes or something with nothing happening, to the point where you're studying every inch of that bedroom. Like I can see it in my mind now, like every inch of that frame. You get so used to looking at it, of the layout of that bedroom, and then you are looking at it and waiting, and then all they need to do is move a door, and everyone in the cinema, everyone watching the film, jumps out of their skin. It's such a brilliant idea.
It's like being just like what a master puppeteer you are when you can just fuck with people in that way. It's genius. It's executed in a genius way. Those things. It's almost iconic, actually. That
it is
bedroom.
It is. Yeah,
that image. Everyone can see it.
When you think Paranormal Activity, you see that image, don't you?
Completely. Even if you've not seen it, you probably know about that image.
And actually, couldn't be more different to Blair Witch, which is so constantly frenetic and moving. And shaky, and the whole point of Blair Witch is you don't really see anything, you kind of, because they're running around handheld cameras all the time, and this film is just so still and so quiet, and for so much of it you're just looking at nothing.
All right, check it out. This is about 2:10 in the morning. The doors, you got it? The doors and windows all over the house are closed. I just checked them. The flowers are not moving, but something else is. Door's freaking moving by itself.
Oh my god.
And then it's not over. Check it out. It moves again.
Oh Mika,
that's so awesome.
I think what's brilliant about Paranormal Activity is it's so stripped back, isn't it? It's like basically you don't need anything else, any other characters.
It's quite refreshing.
Yeah, it is.
Isn't it?
And actually, apparently, they shot the whole thing. He shot it in his house. Is that right?
In his home, I think. Yeah, I remember reading he shot it in his home, and then he spent, like, to obviously minimise costs.
Yeah.
But then because he couldn't achieve all the shots that he wanted, he spent some money to kind of change his house around a bit.
Yeah.
But of course, that was nothing compared to the money he made on the film, so I'm sure it was fine. But he must have been so confident that it was going to do well. But yeah, he shot it in his house.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't leave that. I mean, it goes out into the back garden at one stage, but that's it. That's literally it.
It is true. That's
great.
it, isn't it? That's it. And I'm trying to think of other characters that come into it. I mean, there's the medium or somebody who's like an expert who comes in.
So I think you've got some people at the beginning who are outside the house, who I can't remember who they are. But then you've got the medium who comes in midway through the film. who's he's just like Mr. Warning sign, like, you're messing with this thing. It's not happy that I'm here. I better leave. Blah blah blah.
Yes.
But yeah, he's quite a funny dude.
I mean, what do you think? Like, do you think this? Like, let's talk about what the thing actually is. It's not really just like a ghost, is it?
No, it's like an ancient demon that just really wants. It's kind of like stuck itself to Katie.
Yes.
So she can move house, but it will still remain. I think that's another part of why it's so scary.
Yeah, it's like, not just a haunted house.
Yeah, exactly. It's like wherever you go will be haunted because you are the thing that it wants.
Yeah.
And obviously the later films, which I'm sure we'll touch on in a bit, delves into the history of why that is. But on the surface level, the whole idea that this thing just wants Katie and you're not sure why, seemingly no rhyme, no reason.
Yeah.
Is really terrifying to
me. It is. I think it's really good. And I love that you don't see it and you don't have to see it.
No.
And there's moments where they get the footprints and it's like they're like cloven hoofs.
Yeah, hoofs.
Yeah, which is fine. Like, you just think, God, if they ever showed that, it would look awful.
Yeah.
But thank God they don't. That's all you need to know. And there's moments like when Katie just says, it's standing next to me or something, and you don't see anything, and it's all in her face.
Hair blowing to the left, just like slightly to the left.
That is brilliant. I mean, that's my kind of horror. I kind of like things that don't show you too much because for me, it's always, and again, we talked about this quite a lot with ghost movies. Like, it tends to be that when you finally see the monster, when they show it, it's never as scary as you think it's going to look.
Always disappointing.
It's always disappointing.
I'm trying to think of the only thing that when it's revealed, you're like, what? And Don't Look Now just jumps out because you're just like, what the fuck?
Because it's so weird, and sort of uncanny.
It's just so random.
Yeah,
exactly. It's so uncanny. And but this, if they try to show the demon, that would have been so funny.
Terrible. Yeah, thank God they don't. And I really do think this is a less is more kind of a movie.
It's here.
What's here? What? What are you talking about?
I don't know. I feel it. I feel it breathing on me.
But what about like in terms of the way the scares are executed? Because I remember there was this big backlash, and actually people still talk about it now with like movies like The Conjuring and things like that. That there's this thing. I remember Mark Kermode moaning about it time and time again, saying the quiet bang movies, or like Nigel Floyd called it cattle prod cinema, where you suddenly you're jolted by something, and it's kind of a little bit manipulative and not genuinely kind of trying to scare you or get under your skin in a proper organic way, but more just kind of loud noises, bangs,
cheap tactic
after nothing happening for and in a way Paranormal Activity kind of invented that trope without not meaning to, I suppose.
I think the first true jump is the bit where you hear a bang from downstairs, and it is loud, and they do amp up that noise. Like each time you hear this like windows point, it's so loud, and obviously it's going to make you jump if you've got a pulse. It's going to make you startle you. But do you know what? What frightens me more than that is it's because it's the whole idea of if you hear something that goes bump in the night, like if you do now, your mind just plays tricks on you.
Yeah.
What's causing that? Why is it happening? And I think that's what the whole premise of Paranormal Activity. I think it kind of gets away with the bang bang scare thing because what's the overriding terror is who's doing that and where has it come from?
Yeah.
Not, oh my God, that noise scared me.
Exactly. I think it's as much about the build-up as well.
100%.
I'm so scared watching them just sleep in bed. Or those moments when it's not a bang scare, like when, like you said, there's one night, isn't there, where she just gets up and she stands by the bed and you see the time code kind of whiz by and she's standing there rocking back and forth for like 3 hours.
Staring at her boyfriend.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Imagine waking up to that.
Man, after that film, I tell you something, I rewatched it recently. And afterwards, I was like, do you know what? I kind of want to set my alarm in the middle of the night just to make sure my girlfriend's not doing that to me.
Yeah.
Like, it's so scary.
Yeah.
The whole thought of that terrifies me.
Yeah, definitely. I remember I had a mate at school who would sleepwalk. And so whenever I'd go to stay at his house or we'd have sleepovers or whatever, you would sometimes hear a noise and you wake up in the night and you just find him standing by a door or walking back and forth or something. Yeah, and it's like I don't want to stay over at yours anymore.
No.
You know? Something really horrible about that, about waking up in the night and seeing somebody just sort of stood by you, not doing anything at all. You know?
I'm sorry, that I'd be gone.
yeah, it's pretty horrible.
My former friend, that would be.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we no longer speak. Yeah, it's good. I think the scares are well done, and we'll get to the sequels because I think it gets it gets too much.
Slightly convoluted.
Yeah, it gets convoluted, and also they they really push that quiet bang thing.
Oh my
to the
God,
max,
they do,
don't
yeah.
they?
Especially that's the second one.
Yeah,
oh
the
my
second
God.
one particularly. Yeah, exactly. But this one, it does kind of work, and it kind of invented the trope. You kind of forgive it for it because it was trying to do more than just make you jump with a bang.
It exists for more than that,
Yeah.
and I think it absolutely works. It succeeds in doing what it intended to do, and that's just like giving you the absolute heebie-jeebies, making you want to literally not hang your foot outside the bed
Yes, exactly.
ever again through fear of being dragged out.
Yes, exactly.
Unwittingly pulled up your hallway.
Oh,
my!
it's horrible.
I'm thinking about it now, and that's what I mean. I'm thinking about it now, and it's putting the hairs on the back of my neck on end.
Yeah.
And that's what you want from a horror film.
That's exactly what you want. Yeah. And I'm a person that sleeps with one leg out because it keeps your body temperature.
You're one-legger.
I'm 1 foot out of the cover, definitely. But yeah, I remember thinking after that film, oh fuck, you're going to feel some hoof or some claw grab your foot.
A demonic goat just claim you. No, thank you.
No thanks, yeah. So as the film goes on, obviously they show you more and more and more.
Yes.
You know, you get like they set the traps where you see the hooves and in the powder or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then you get her being dragged out of the bed. I mean, do you think does that all still work for you, or do you prefer it when it's like much more held back and you don't see anything?
The hooves thing. I mean, you'd think on paper that powdered hoof would actually take you out of it, but it kind of works for me.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that bit doesn't scare me per se.
No.
But I think the increasing the drama surrounding the scares.
Yes.
So her getting yanked out is for me the scariest.
Yes.
Part of the film, because I think the way it's put together is incredible. The way that she kind of wakes up as she's all confused and she screams her boyfriend's name as the door slams.
Yeah.
And she's like, and he's trying to grab her. It's so well done.
Yeah, it is.
And then it kind of peaks with, I mean, I'm sure we're going to get to the end, but it peaks with like something very outrageous. But
yes.
It works for me because I'm just sold on the premise.
Yes.
I'm sold on what this film's trying to do.
Yes.
And I can see why some people who aren't sold, why it wouldn't work for them, and I kind of understand that. But for me, it planted something in me from the opening.
Yeah.
And anything it did, I probably would be kind of freaked out by.
Yeah, definitely. No, I think you're right. And there are other moments in this film actually that watching it again this week got under my skin even more. Like where when they put the camera up in the loft to see what's going on in the loft, just things like that I don't like because I think something's going to pop out,
just jump out.
Yeah. And it reminds me a lot of Wreck, which is my favourite. I think my favourite of all found footage movies. Yeah.
That
and
film is scary.
Yeah. And the moments when they'll suddenly walk downstairs at night and things will just be moving or the light will be swinging and stuff like that. That really got to me. And again, it's just these little movements and things that really get under your skin.
The thought of anything going on in the house.
Yes.
Like behind your closed bedroom door
or
whatever.
That you don't know is
really hate
happening.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the other night I thought I heard something in my flat, and I woke up, and when you wake up and you're just like you think you've been woken up by something.
Yes.
But you're not sure if you have.
Yeah.
And then you're lying there and you're like, oh, I need to check the house. I've just got to check that. I'm not going to go to sleep unless I check the house.
Yeah.
I thought I heard someone walking up and down my hallway, and I left. But if I'd left and I saw a light swing in, bag wouldn't even be packed.
Yeah.
I'd be gone.
Be out of there.
I'd be gone.
Yeah, that's it. And I think again, it's like with these movies, especially, it's like it gets you in your own home. You're not safe in your own bed, in your own bedroom, let alone anywhere else in your
safe
home.
chamber.
Yeah,
no longer safe.
Oh, it's
Sorry.
horrible. And like you say, that thing of it's just Katie as well. It's not even the house, so they can't just go.
Yeah,
with a lot of horror movies, you go, well, just get the fuck out of there.
Yeah, exactly.
And they can't even do that.
That's a bit of a genius move. That because it is a what the fuck do we do? And it's just I do feel sorry for Mika. It's like he just loves the girl he loves is being possessed.
Yes.
What do you do?
Yes.
It's such a predicament.
And I do find him very irritating, but every horror movie needs this. Every horror movie needs an irritating character in it in some form or another. You can't just like everyone, otherwise it'd be boring. But he does do some ridiculous things. When he wants to do the Ouija board and she's like, I really don't want to do that. And then he gets one and then it bloody catches fire.
It catches fire.
And he keeps increasingly doing things that are not really helping anyone.
No, he's been warned. He knows it's going to piss off Demon Goat.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, why are you doing this?
Yeah. I suppose it's the kind of curiosity, like you say. It's his, like, he's got his toys that he wants to play with, and
exactly.
he wants to catch things, doesn't he?
And I do think, in some sense, like, you probably, don't think it's going to escalate to the
no,
no,
exactly.
to what it escalates to.
It's true because I could see a little bit of myself being like that too. I'm a skeptic. I wouldn't ever believe in ghosts or anything like that.
Yeah.
And so if anyone suggests, let's go to this spooky house where you can hear noises, or let's do a Ouija board, I'm always the first to go, yeah, let's do it, because I don't actually think anything would ever
happen.
Genuinely
Have you done a Ouija board?
No, I don't think I have. No. I've always wanted to.
Really?
But I've always had friends that have gone, oh, no, I'm not touching that. I'm not doing that, And it's like, what,
I don't think I would do one. I'd be too freaked out. Even though I don't believe in ghosts, but I still wouldn't do one. It's weird, isn't it?
That is weird.
It's a bit of a disconnect.
You're a little bit agnostic then. There must be a bit of you.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Because you'd think nothing would happen, it would be fine. I don't know.
I'd be intrigued to do it just as a study of kind of human behaviour in a way, more than thinking that spirits will come.
Connect.
Do
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, just to see in a group what would happen and how it would happen and who might believe it, or like, it would be really interesting.
That's a good point, actually. Yeah.
And so often that's what these kind of movies are really. Haunted house movies are actually about people's psyche or whatever. Some of the best ones, like The Orphanage and The Others, or The Innocents, all those types of movies are actually about kind of damaged characters who may or may not be seeing things in their head and stuff. I mean, do you think, and we talked a lot as well, there's this kind of trope of ghost movies, like the kind of hysterical woman, where a woman sort of believes that something is happening in her house and none of the men in her life believe her. That's right at the forefront of this movie in a way, I suppose.
It really is. And I think what's cool is that, like I said, she is completely within her rights to be hysterical.
Yeah, she's correct.
Because she's like, and we have proof that this thing is happening. Like, it's never any doubt. Like, it's caught on camera.
Yeah.
She's not mad.
Yeah.
And she's just downright terrified. And, actually, not even as hysterical as she should be at the beginning.
No, it's true.
She's
it's
actually
true.
less so. Like, she's more stoic. But he then also in some way becomes the hysterical man as well. Like, that's what I like. Like, it's a shared hysteria.
Yeah.
Because he's scared and he's worried about his girlfriend.
Yeah.
Even though he's kind of prodding Demon Goat.
Yeah.
And so I think it, like, less so than Jamie Lee in Halloween, where people were like, we don't believe you. We don't believe you. And we're like, no, we know. Yes. People on screen share her hysteria, share her concern, because they are seeing it with. Yeah. And I think that's what the found footage puts across. That's a benefit of the found footage.
It's
eliminates
cool. It's real. It's
caught
on camera.
Completely.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's true. And I suppose the great thing about found footage as well is that it's never deliberately good quality what you're seeing. Everything is fuzzy and dark, and like you say, the whole idea of having probably 70% of this film is shot on night vision, kind of infrared night vision. So you're never 100%. You're kind of squinting at the screen a little bit, and that's a great way of not showing much and being cheap, but also I think like leaving a lot of the things to your imagination. Even when those hooves appear, you can't quite see them that clearly enough to kind of go, oh, they look ridiculous, sort of thing. Yeah. You're kind of thinking, what is that happening? Yeah.
Especially if you're expecting to see just like feet.
Yeah, exactly.
What's that?
Yeah. No, it's really cleverly done. And actually, you're right. Like, she gets more and more hysterical, and he doesn't believe her, and then he starts to get hysterical, and she then kind of has this like resignation in the last act, doesn't she? Which is really sad as well.
This is what freaks. This is the moment where I get really properly freaked out, because he's like, fuck this, I'm going. We're going. We're packing a bag. We're not doing it.
Yeah.
And she clearly kind of probably possessed, or I don't know. Like, so she's like, no, I think we should stay. We should stay. And you're like, oh God. So his hysteria peaks.
Yes.
At the end.
Yes.
Where he gets mercilessly murdered.
Yes.
Off camera, of course.
Yes.
But yeah, and that whole, the switch around at the end.
Yes.
Freaks me out.
I don't want to leave. Will you stay with me?
What the fuck are you talking about?
I think it'd be better if we stay. Please. Just, I don't want to go. I don't want to leave. Just trust me.
Whoa. You want to stay here and sleep in this fucking bed and get dragged down the hall again? I don't think so.
We'll be okay. It's better if we stay.
Because you know something bad's going to happen. You know, like, I mean, you know the film's coming to an end.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know something's going to happen, and it ain't going to be good.
Jump scare. Yeah.
Yeah. So that does that works. That's very effective and chilling.
Well, yeah. I mean, let's talk about that end shot then. So it starts, doesn't it, with them asleep, and then this is where she gets dragged out by her foot, doesn't she? Out the door.
That's not the end.
No.
That's the what's it? The end is when she wakes up and she looks at him for hours and hours and hours.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
and then she walks down the stairs so slowly. It happens so slow.
Yes.
And she walks down, and then you hear a scream.
Yeah.
He runs. He's like, shit. Wait, jumps out, runs out of bed. Then you hear like him screaming, "Let go of her, let go," or something, and then. Boom, silence.
Yeah.
And then you hear the footsteps come up the stairs. Next thing, his body's thrown at the camera.
Yeah.
Which is thrown off its static, its tripod.
Yes.
And then she calls over, and then her face, she like sniffs the body, doesn't she? And then she looks at the camera, and it all goes
sort of demonic.
And she into the camera.
What do you think of that? What do you think of that last, how that ends?
So I like it. I mean, I think that the slow build up that caps it. So you got the her walking down the stairs, and then after again taps into the whole what we're not seeing. Yeah. What the hell is going on down there? I don't know.
That's
and then the
brilliant.
slow footsteps upstairs is probably the peak of the terror for me.
Yes.
The end probably you're a bit like. I think by that stage you're getting so swept up in it that. If you're scared, you're going to be scared at that moment. And it's the first time you actually see a hint of her actually being possessed. Like, as in her being a different being.
A demon. Yeah.
And compared with the other endings, did you know about the other endings?
Yeah, now tell me about them. Yeah, I can't remember which one's which.
There was 2 other endings.
Yeah.
One is she goes downstairs, kills him, comes upstairs, slits her own throat,
and
falls to the ground. Another one is kills her. She comes upstairs, sits down, rocks back and forth for hours as the time codes flip by. Then I think the police arrive.
Yes.
I've got one up here. Ma'am.
Mika?
Ma'am? She's got a weapon.
Where's Mika?
Put down the knife there. Put down the knife there.
Each of them I'm not a fan of. I think that the slit the throat one was shown at festivals.
Yeah.
And then I think it ended up on Steven Spielberg's desk.
Yeah.
And he came up with he was the guy who said to Owen Pelly, you should change the ending to be something more like the one it became.
Wow, interesting. I mean, I don't know. I kind of like the sound of that slit throat one because I like the sound that
it's on YouTube.
I like the thought that it could be her doing it. It could just be that she's killed her boyfriend.
Yes.
And that there's not a demon. I think the thing about the ending we've got, I think I would have liked it if it had ended about 6 seconds earlier. Like if it had ended with him being thrown at the camera, maybe.
Yeah. So you're not a fan of the demonic face?
I'm not a fan of the demonic face.
No.
I think her crawling on her hands and knees and then being demonic was just one step too far for me. That's just my own personal taste. I would have preferred it to end, or even if it had ended beyond that of going downstairs, screaming, and then hearing the footsteps walk up the stairs and ended there.
Yeah, as you saw like a face maybe in the doorway and then it ends. Yeah,
exactly. It wouldn't have been as crowd-pleasing, but I think that might have got under my skin even more. In a way
I agree with you thinking about that.
Yeah. But that's just a minor thing. And as we've discussed with Lost, it's not about the ending; it's about the whole film.
It's about the journey.
And I am always left with a little bit. I was a little bit silly with that very last sort of 2 or 3 seconds. But other than that, I'm with it. 100%.
You're with it all the way.
Yeah, absolutely love
That's
it.
fair.
Dad, don't pick it up with your hands.
Why not?
Because it could, they can have diseases and stuff. They
flew into the window.
So sad. I don't even want to look at it. What?
His neck is all.
Oh my God! Just put it in the thing. Why did you pick it up with Tom? I don't know. Stop.
Medium rare.
Let's briefly talk about the sequels. Have you seen the sequels?
Seen them all. Yeah.
Oh my God! Well, this is good because I've not. I've seen 2 and 3, and I think I've not seen anything beyond that.
Okay. So then there's 4 the marked ones.
Yes.
The spin-off, the weird spin-off, and then 5 the Ghost Dimension.
Yes.
Which is Dross.
Is it?
Yeah, that's the only one that's actually not good.
Yes.
Because dare I say, the others they're perfectly enjoyable, perfectly watchable.
Yeah.
I think that they're not. as well executed as the first one. I think they're not as tight, but they all try to do different things with the found footage formula, which justifies their existence.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? And it gets very convoluted. I mean, just to try and briefly run through them in my head, the second one takes place kind of just before the first one, doesn't it?
Yes.
About we think it's a whole unrelated couple or family, don't we? And then it turns out it's Katie's sister and her family.
Christy,
that's right, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's kind of the same thing happening again, isn't it? It's kind of setting up cameras to find out what's going to happen, and then at the very end, there's a kind of link there where we go, oh, it ends up going into the first one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The final scene takes place just after the events we saw at, in the end of Paranormal 1.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I remember that one being pretty weak. In terms of the sequels that I saw, that was
number 2.
Yeah,
save for that mental jump scare in the kitchen, which that's exactly what Mark Kermode's saying about the bang bang scare, like that. But I think they kind of earned it. But there's this amazing kitchen jump scare, which oh my god, YouTube that and put the speakers up.
Yeah,
it's where every cabinet, every drawer in the kitchen, she's sitting there for about 3 minutes, just opens at the same time. She's like, what?
Yeah.
Must have so much fun with strings. Just working that.
Brilliant. You know, like we were saying with the first one, I always remember like a shot and I remember the second one has the pool cleaner.
Yeah, the pool cleaner is ridiculous.
That is what I remember from Paranormal Activity 2, is remembering a whole lot of watching a pool and a pool cleaner.
Yeah, the pool cleaner is actually ridiculous. That's not so great.
Yeah. And then it kind of gives you a little bit more about, this is to do with a family and not just Katie.
Yes.
And it kind of teases a bit more of, there's something else going on here.
Yeah, there's a bit of history to this.
Yeah. And then the third one jumps back like 30 years to the 80s, doesn't it?
Yes.
Is that right?
So it's set when Christy and Katie are little girls.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Hey, ladies.
Hi.
Hey. Oh, it's Katie. Woo-hoo-hoo. Katie, wave hi to the camera, Katie.
And so it's all shot on even more kind of grainy, like proper old school video cameras with the big videotapes in them, aren't they? Yeah.
Here's the thing, I think they put it on like a fan or something. That's this the third one where it goes
with the fan.
And it moves left to right, so of course you're anticipating what's going to be there that wasn't there before.
That's quite a cool idea.
Yeah.
That's a good little gimmick. And I remember those scenes, it's in the kitchen, isn't it, as the camera slowly moves back and forth.
I find that film slightly tedious, but the final scene is the final 10 minutes are so terrifying.
Yes, because it becomes something else there.
It becomes about Coven of Witches.
Yes.
Katie, get away from there. Christy, listen to me. Stay right here, okay? Don't move, okay? Katie.
Their grandma was, she was kind of summoning this thing.
Yes.
It's so scary. You just see this Coven of Witches. I mean, we're completely spoiling it, but I'm assuming people.
No, that's fine. I'll do a warning. Yeah.
People. This guy, and you see into this room, and there's just like all these faces. Staring at him, like chasing him.
It's horrible.
It's so scary.
And that's, again, it's the main bit I remember of Paranormal Activity 3 is the ending, because also it's a real, like, what the fuck ending.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't really understand what's happening at that point.
No, you have no idea.
Of witches.
And it's similarly matched by 4. I don't want to give it away. Mm-hmm. But the ending, 4 is perfectly fine. It froze the time to after number 2.
Yes.
So we're back in the present.
We're back in the kind of Generation Z, millennials
because they're doing it through Skype
and stuff, isn't it? Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but I've just been hearing a lot of noises. And like all this weird stuff has been happening since the new neighbors moved in.
Lights go off all the time, honey.
Perfectly fine film, actually. But the final 10 minutes, again, so scary.
Yes.
And it links back to the whole Coven of Witches
idea,
which I think I mentioned in the last episode I featured on, that witches.
Yeah.
No, man. I'm out.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Me too. It gets me, definitely.
I'm out.
And the fourth one, I think I might have seen the fourth one, actually. I've just forgotten. But it's like a main sort of teenage girl and her little brother. Is that right? And
so what, the fourth one?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is the fourth one.
And there's a little boy, Katie and a little boy have moved across the road.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, I I have seen that.
You've
one.
seen that?
Yeah.
And at the end, it's in the street, and there's like
There's hundreds of them.
God,
yes.
Like,
yes.
why? It's so weird.
Because actually, when 3 ended, I thought, I will watch the 4th one.
Yeah.
I was close to giving up on it, and I thought, no, because that ended in such a interesting way. But then they don't explain anymore.
They don't explain
apart from the ending again.
Yeah,
and
it's
then,
got more demonic Katie face, which doesn't really work.
Yes, exactly. And then you get number 5, which is the marked ones, which I've not seen.
The lady who got killed, she lives right under me.
I had an idea. Let's go check downstairs. Holy, there's blood everywhere. Katie and Christy. What is this?
This is some black magic stuff.
Hey.
She's got pictures of you. How does she have pictures of you?
So this is like a Latin American spin-off,
Yes.
where they find loads of tapes. This guy finds loads of tapes, and it's got like Katie and Christy's name on it.
Yes.
So that's like the link. But what's quite interesting about and there's like someone downstairs where there's weird noises coming from the room, and they're like, "Who's in there? Who's there? What's going on?" It's clearly someone who's possessed. But I don't know if you know much about the ending of the marked ones.
No, I don't know.
But it ties into the ending of the first one in a very direct way.
And now I've read online. Is this where he goes through a portal or goes back in time or something?
So
or
yeah, something weird happens, and you see these weird like static lines on the screen. And
Yes.
Before you know it, he's in Katie and Mika's living room.
Right.
And he sees Katie coming down the stairs and then screaming. Looks directly at him, screams, not because he's there, just because she's being possessed to.
Yes.
Mika runs down, and you see what happens through
Brilliant.
his point of view.
Brilliant.
Why is he there? This is like some lost time travel shit. And
this is
dig
what
it.
I thought when I was, because I watched the first one again. I thought, I'm not fucking watching all the sequels for this, but I read up and I couldn't believe how convoluted it gets, and
Yeah.
I was like, what the hell? And I had to watch this video where it was like, this is all the events of Paranormal Activity that happen in chronological order, and they do all this stuff where they explain it to you, and you got the 5th one, you got time travel.
Yeah.
And what the hell?
It's bizarre, and that came before the whole Blair Witch time angle
Yes.
thing, which
Which we'll mention
Adam
in a minute.
Wingard film. But the film again is unremarkable, but it really makes it memorable in my mind because I kind of love that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You don't need to explain. For me, you don't need to explain that.
No,
I'm with it, and tying something. I think Katie is the anchor of this
whole franchise.
She is the thing keeping it together. So when you go directly to the thing that kind of kicked it off in a really grandstanding manner,
yes,
I'm all for it.
Yeah, no, totally.
Yeah.
It's what's really funny is that all of these elements that like connect them or build the mythology are always like the last 30 seconds of each film.
Yeah.
Like other than that, it's just a normal found footage movie, and then you go, oh, but the end in some way links to this or teases this or does that. Other than that, it's like just
kind of cheap,
another.
isn't it?
Yeah, it's so funny, but it's great. And then there's the last one, Ghost Dimension. Is that right? Is that a bad one?
Oh, God.
Daddy, I can't sleep.
What's going on?
Hearing noises in my room.
You hear noises in your room? Okay, well, Daddy will go up and make sure everything's...
Bless you.
What the hell?
I don't know. It's like they've got this camera that captures like spectral kind of presences, which opens these dimensions. And they did it in 3D. So when you watch it at home, which I did, I watched it on Netflix. I was just a bit like, hey, what's going on here? So much so that I can barely remember it. I don't remember. It was really boring. It wasn't scary, and it was a real shame. I think they are kind of maybe ending it now.
I think that's it. I think that was it.
A real damp way to go out.
It's terrible, isn't it? Such a shame. It's always the way. I mean, look at Halloween franchise, Nightmare on Elm Street. You know, by the time you get around to part fucking 6, it's died a death, hasn't it? And they've kind of forgotten what made the original so good in the first place.
Yeah,
in
completely.
A way. Yeah, I mean that's the thing. You said boring. I mean these movies do. If they're not scary, they are boring. That's the thing about Paranormal Activity. If you're not in it and with it, and you're not being scared by it, you are just watching nothing happen for long periods.
Yeah.
You're just watching a shot of a kitchen or a bedroom,
Completely.
and it's like, you know,
I could be watching so many other things.
it's literally like watching paint dry.
It
if
is.
you're not scared by it.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So it's such an interesting, fascinating franchise, really, that it became as huge as it did. All these sequels, it's just watching nothing for long periods of time.
It kept it going for an admirable length of time, for an admirable number of years. It did.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Ghost Dimension was a bit of a
downer,
a sign that this needs to stop now.
It needs to stop.
Yeah, because they're trying to kind of retrofit backstory, and they just went one step too far.
Yeah, and also you do take away something's power once you explain all of its origins.
You do,
100%. Don't need that. It's like Michael Myers. You don't need to know where he came from and why he is the way he is. And again, with the original Paranormal Activity, they just reveal just enough about Katie and this demon that you're just like, okay, I get it, and I don't need to know anymore. Kind of thing. Yeah.
I'd hate for people to find the first one less scary because of the explanation later down the line. It would be a shame.
Yeah. So you'd be. I mean, do you think this is it now for Paranormal Activity? We're not likely to see this franchise return.
Yeah, with any luck, but we'll probably see it return in some way in about 2 years.
It will get rebooted or something.
It will, and I'm trying to think how they could do it. But if they do it, they need Katie involved, because Katie, like I said, like she's not like horror legend, but she's a known figure within the genre now. And I don't think she does much else, Katie Featherston.
No.
But it's always like, it's so weird. An air of familiarity, is always good. So if they do another one or something else, a spin-off, then she definitely needs to be involved. But I just can't. I'm trying to think. I mean, I don't write films, so I don't know. But how could they do it?
What would you do? And I
what
think
is there to be done?
We'll get to this in a minute, talking more broadly about found footage. But I also think, what more can you do with found footage now? And what else could they possibly do with this format? It's like we've done cameras, we've done the fan oscillating sort of cameras, we've done the 3D thing. It's like, what more can you do? I can imagine them doing something like Unfriended style, like Skype Paranormal Activity.
That's a good little film, that.
Yeah, it's all right, isn't it? But also, I think I wouldn't want to see 100 films like that. That's the thing.
No, that's true. That is true.
But like, I don't know. It's like, what more can they possibly do in the kind of found footage style?
There is not much more to do.
No.
They have to rely on story and characters, which I feel like it's really hard to to make a film that you recommend it, a found footage film that you recommend it on story and characters. It's quite hard to do because it is a gimmick. Like it is a plain old gimmick.
Yeah, definitely.
And it gets in the way.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, I'm sure it can be like there's like an episode of Inside Number 9, right, where is it the call centre?
That's right, and it's all sort of CCTV.
Yeah, and that's terrific because the story is so strong at its heart. I mean, those guys are obviously terrific.
They know what they're
doing.
They
know what they're doing. And it's half an hour. So
that's the other thing. That's the other thing.
But yeah, full-length feature of found footage is a bit tedious now.
It is. That's the problem, isn't it? I mean, let's talk about found footage. I mean, so we talked briefly about Blair Witch, obviously, and Paranormal Activity, but everything that came after Paranormal Activity, there are hundreds. There are literally hundreds. There's a website where you can look up. I think it's called foundfootage.com, and it has a list of every single found footage film, and they're all from about 2007 onwards, and there are hundreds. It's mental. Are there any in particular that stand out for you that you'd recommend to people?
I watched Creep recently.
Oh yes, that's good.
Yeah, I watched Creep recently, which people get really confused with the tube.
Yeah, it's the Charing Cross one.
Yeah. With Franco Vicente, which is I actually quite like that
film.
It's
good.
It's good. But I watched Creep recently, and while I wasn't like blown away by it, I was completely swept up. Swept up.
Actually, Creep 2 is brilliant.
Is it really good?
It's, I think, better than the original.
Oh, even better. Okay, great.
It's really worth a watch.
I'll check that out.
So they're both on Netflix, I think, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. Yeah. So I saw Creep 2 was on. That's what possessed me to watch the first.
Yeah.
And those guys are great. They're just churning out some really cool stuff.
Yes.
Even if not amazing, ambitious.
Definitely.
That's what I liked about Creep. I found it more ambitious than most found footage films of late.
Yes, definitely.
That's
the thing. It's very easy to just phone it in with found footage.
Yeah.
That's why there are so many of them. It's so cheap and so easy, and anyone thinks that they can make the next Paranormal Activity, don't they? That's the thing.
That's the problem.
That's the problem.
That's the issue at hand.
Yeah.
You mentioned Wreck. That film is terrific, and so much so that I forget that it's found footage.
Yes. It's just a brilliant kind of zombie film, a brilliant sort of infection film. Yeah.
Contained in one
wonderful.
building. Yeah.
Proper horror as well. It's found footage, but it's also proper horror. Blood, guts, violence, nastiness,
God,
action.
it's horrible.
It's got everything. It's got good characters. It takes its time. It's really good. It's, I think,
An incredible final moment.
just the best final moments of a horror film. Yeah,
I've not seen
amazing.
any of the sequels.
I've seen Rec 2 and it was not as good.
Not as good.
And then I didn't bother with Rec 3.
Rec 3.
Yeah.
I think one of them's like set at a wedding or something.
Yeah,
it's like away from the. It's
that's
so
right.
strange.
I just found footage is the one that you do. You know, there's a lot of horror films that don't need sequels, but found footage especially does not need a sequel because why would you have a sequel to something that is a piece of found footage?
Highlighting the fact that it's like there is no need for these people to be filming. Like you're literally you're completely just trying to make some money here.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think Rec is one of my favourites. Branching out of straight horror, I suppose. Although it is kind of horror, I loved Cloverfield, J.J. Abrams' Cloverfield.
Yes.
Oh God.
Yes.
I was a huge fan of that, and that's kind of like a found footage blockbuster movie. It's massive scale.
I remember that trailer where it was produced by J.J. Abrams and the Statue of Liberty head comes flying down. It was so instant in my mind. Like, what is we need to watch? I need to see this film.
Yeah.
Obviously, coupled with the fact that I was a big fan of Lost at the time, which he obviously co-created,
and it had that kind of Lost style marketing, didn't it?
It did. Always shrouded in secrecy.
Yeah.
I think it works, that film. I think it's great.
I love it.
Still, and it's just kind of its brilliance is heightened by the Cloverfield paradox. Is the recent Sopranos sequel.
I haven't watched this yet.
Shit, it is. I'm sorry. I shouldn't.
Yeah.
I shouldn't call films shit, but it was. If it would have been a walkout if I was in the cinema. Which is a shame. But yeah, I think Cloverfield's really great.
Yeah.
And I think it's actually one of the films where the monster reveal. Like you're like, whoa, this thing is.
Properly
quite
scary.
Yeah.
But actually, again, because it's found footage, they reveal just enough. You get little frames of it here and there. They never just go, "This is it." You know? But the part that really scared me, the part where this is genuinely a horror film, is where they're walking through the tunnel and there are the little ones attacking them in the tunnel. That is absolutely horrific as well. I don't like little. It's like in Alien when they get the little face huggers that hatch out of the eggs. I don't like all the little ones.
Yeah,
they're always scarier to
the
me
little
than
minions,
the big kind of building crushing monsters.
Yeah,
horrible, absolutely horrible.
The tunnel at the end of Cloverfield, I didn't realise it, but I last summer I walked through that bridge.
Oh, cool!
It's in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And it was I think Greenpoint, maybe, I could be wrong, but it was Labor Day, and I remember there was loads walking through, and then someone said to me, they were like, "This is where they did the end of Cloverfield." When I was like, "What?
Amazing.
Of course it is. This is so good."
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And also that film now, from a kind of historical point of view, is really a powerful. You get that kind of 9/11 feel to the opening act of Cloverfield.
Yeah, you do.
Big time. You
really do. Yeah.
And it's kind of really feels like of that era, like a real post 9/11 horror film in a way, doesn't it? Cloverfield.
It's a really good point, actually.
It's terrifying. That kind of mass hysteria in the streets as the things attacking. Yeah, it's brilliant. I'm a big fan of that. And I also love, and again, definitely not a horror film, but I love what's it called? What's the Chronicle? I love Chronicle.
Chronicle's good.
That's really good.
Chronicle is good.
Yeah.
Chronicle surprised me, actually.
Yeah.
The premise, you'll be like, I'm not sure if they can do this, but it really works. You feel like you are actually watching these guys acquire some superpowers.
Yeah, it's good. It's a great kind of, it's a twist on the superhero genre, which I'm a little bit bored of, but that's a different one. And also, I feel like this is genuinely what teenage boys would be like with superpowers. They're not necessarily becoming superheroes. They're in it for themselves.
Yeah, it's like quite problematic. Actually.
Yeah,
it's a really good film. Have you seen the film The Bay?
Yes.
Is that found footage?
That is,
because I've heard such good things about that, and I need to watch it.
It's really good. It's like a proper kind of old school monster movie,
right?
In the vein of something like The Blob or something, where it's like a little seaside town is attacked by these kind of monsters, sort of thing.
Yeah,
but done in a kind of, I suppose, would you call it found footage? I suppose you would, but it's kind of more like a documentary, like a proper documentary where you've got like an anchor, like a news anchor.
Okay.
But it's like collections of footage from different people's mobile phones and stuff. I
see.
Of dying from this infection creature thing that is in the bay. It's really good. Cool. I think that's on Netflix.
It's on Netflix.
Well.
I need to watch that. Yeah. Directed by the guy in Men in Black, if I'm right. I could be wrong.
Oh, right. Yeah, maybe.
I could be wrong, but I remember seeing like, that guy's directed this. Cool. Yeah, I've heard that comes up in conversation like enough for me to actually need to go out of my way to watch it.
It's good. It's that really, I hate that kind of, gets under my skin, that kind of infectious disease narrative where you have people kind of coughing on each other and then they start split, and you see like in hospital beds suddenly something ruptures from somebody's chest or whatever it might be, like those kind of like icky body horror movies. It's full of that basically.
Okay.
It's really good.
It's
Bring
really
good.
Tissues,
it's horrible. It's horrible. Any other found footage films that you're a fan of?
Nothing that's really jumping out really.
No.
Apart from Blair Witch that we already mentioned. I'm trying to think, if there's any.
There are lots of bad ones, I think, that I've seen. What's it called? There was a George Romero zombie one, which was really bad, and I'm such a fan of Romero. Diary of the Dead.
I've seen that.
That wasn't good.
Bit of a shocker.
That was Romero's kind of new spin on his zombie franchise, but all done.
God rest his soul.
Yeah, done as a kind of as a sort of pseudo documentary found footage thing, and that really suffered from the problem of why the hell are you still filming and not just running away? Yeah, it didn't
it's a
work.
real issue, that, isn't it?
Yeah, it didn't work. But there were so many franchises like that jumped on that found footage while they could at that point.
I can't think of any other ones that I like, When I think about it, I'm coming up short. I can't think.
I mean, what did you think of Adam Wingard's Blair Witch?
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I did enjoy it. I was kind of freaked out by it, but I don't know if that was kind of I was hanging off the coattails of the Blair Witch Project. So that the idea of that film scared me so much that I'd be scared by anything set within this world.
And it was just exciting that it was a new Blair Witch film.
I mean, it was a surprise, right? And we thought it was The Woods, this random film, and then all of a sudden we got this Blair Witch film, which is great. I'm a sucker for those kind of things.
Me too, love it, yeah.
But yeah, I found it. It tried to throw in a lot more, like it had a bit of body horror in there as well, and it completely avoided the whole why are they still filming thing, because they had a drone that kind of helped them so you kind of saw above the trees, which was kind of eerie. But yeah, I found it ultimately a little bit throwaway, but I really loved the time twist it threw in.
Yeah, that was good.
That
was good.
If the ending tried to rehash the ending of the Blair Witch Project, which is so frightening, and completely failing in matching that.
Yes, definitely. I think for me, I wasn't a fan of it, and I was maybe I was too excited because it was Blair Witch, but I just feel like it did everything wrong for me that the Blair Witch got right. It showed you too much. It threw too much in.
Really?
There was body horror, like you said.
Yeah, there was a lot.
There was, you saw the fucking witch. I don't want to see her.
Yeah.
There's one moment that I really liked that is really claustrophobic, where she's crawling through sort of an underground tunnel, and that got to me because it's like watching The Descent or something. That kind of thing. I hate that. But other than that, I wasn't a fan, and I also feel like they kind of wasted. I thought the drone was a good idea, but it didn't really
utilise as much
as it should.
Yeah, I agree.
It was a shame, and just a bit glossy, and not kind of grainy enough for me or something. I think that's what it was as well. But yeah, it was. I mean, it had some good ideas. I just didn't think it executed them as well as it could have. Yeah, but actually, speaking of, there is a really good one that I'd recommend.
Oh, please,
called
please.
The Borderlands. I don't know if you've
Borderlands.
seen The Borderlands.
It's just a recent one.
It's from about 5 years ago, about 2012,
okay.
2013, something like that.
I've heard of this. I remember
maybe a bit later. Yeah, maybe
I remember Mark Kermode raving about this one. Actually,
it's really good. And actually, the producer of it, Jen Handorf, has been on this podcast.
Oh,
actually,
wicked!
Talking about The Innocents with me. It's British, it's Irish. I think it's one of the few found footage films of late that's really freaked me out.
Terrific.
It's really good.
I'm gonna seek it out.
It's a bit Paranormal Activity like, where basically it's about these priests that want to prove or disprove this theory that a church is haunted or needs exorcised or something. So they set up cameras in a church, and I think just a church is so much more scary than a house in a way. It's like an old proper rundown Gothic looking church that's in the middle of this like nowhere, like in these moors kind of thing. It's really creepy kind of British landscape.
Okay.
And shit goes down in this church at night. Basically, it's really good. Yeah, it's worth a watch.
I like the list.
It's creepy. Yeah,
the Bay and the Borderlands.
The Bay and the Borderlands.
All the bees.
Yeah, all the bees.
Ignore all the bees.
Else. Yeah, amazing. But after all this and all these sort of sequels and everything, and the way people kind of the legacy of Paranormal Activity, I suppose, isn't always necessarily thought of as good.
No.
Like the Quite Bang, the endless found footage movies, all the sequels. But do you think the original kind of still lives up to the hype?
Yeah, I think I do think it kind of consistently scares people.
Yeah.
I think if it's a scary film you're looking, it's one that has this mystique around it that people who get scared easily haven't seen it because they know it's scary.
Yes.
And it's the one I wouldn't recommend. Like, my mum hates horror films, and
Yes.
I'd make her watch some because I'm like, it's not that scary, but this one I would not. It's just cruel if I made her watch it. But yeah, I do think it is kind of not revered as such, but reflected upon as a good horror film.
Yes.
I think it is.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah, an effective chiller.
And a momentous one, a milestone one, I think.
Yeah.
And I think, again, actually briefly, up until this point, the sort of, if you look at the sort of early 2000s, we were being thrown like torture porns left, right and centre.
Yeah.
Got proper gory stuff. Wolf Creek, Saw, Hostel, all that kind of stuff. And suddenly this changed it again.
Yeah.
The kind of pendulum swung back the other way with Paranormal Activity, I think, where it was like strip everything back and go for just scares again rather than gore
plain
and blood.
old chills.
Yeah, which is
nothing
great,
more effective.
which
yeah.
I always welcome.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and I will always get scared by that.
Yeah,
if it's if it is stripped back.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
just the more stripped back, the more effective.
Yeah.
And the less sleep I get.
Yeah, exactly. You can judge it all by how little sleep you get
Exactly.
as to how good the film is. Wonderful. So before we finish, just broadly, going to like the whole kind of supernatural, haunted house, ghost kind of subgenre of horror, do you have a favourite? If so, what is it?
Oh, a favourite of okay, yeah, The Others.
Oh, good.
The Others is because it's got to be the scariest 12 certificate film that exists.
Yeah.
That film is a 12. By God, it should not be.
Yeah.
I watched when I was that age, and it really stayed with me. But
Yeah.
but like beyond that, again, it is just a terrific film.
Yeah.
Amazing
performances.
Alejandro
just-
Amenabar.
Yeah,
That's
Amenabar,
director.
yeah.
He really made a classic there.
Yeah.
And it's just one of the ones that kind of creeps up now. You're like, that is a classic. At the time, it doesn't feel like one. It's
No.
it's very humble.
Yeah.
But it's feel like Nicole Kidman in that film is absolutely
incredible.
I can't imagine anyone
Just
else in the role, even though I don't think she was meant to be in the role.
No.
I think it was meant to be
Penelope Cruz, wasn't
Penelope
it?
Cruz, yeah.
Because it was Tom Cruise that execed it, and
which
stuff.
is so crazy.
Yeah.
And Nicole Kidman, who obviously is just so incredible.
She's wonderful.
One of her best roles. For me.
Yes, and I remember, I think that was one of the first points where I thought, oh, she's a really good actress.
Yeah.
That was kind of felt like a turning point for Nicole Kidman as well. That film,
really does actually.
Incredible film.
And it does rank as one of her best. And I think the kids are great. The kids are very creepy.
Yeah.
And then you got
The Servants. Are brilliant.
linking to Lost. Fanula Flanagan is in later season of Lost. And I'll literally link anything to Lost.
I love it.
She's like, cup of coffee. I will come up with it. But yeah, and the twist is heartbreaking.
Phenomenal.
It's not just, it doesn't just floor you in a
shock.
in shock sense. In an emotional sense,
Yeah.
it really absolutely slays.
Yeah.
The Others, I'm glad you asked my question because I've just realised that The Others is one of my favourite horror films of all time.
Absolutely
Yeah,
incredible
really.
films, and we've talked about it already on the podcast. And I think it is. It has been a slow burn in terms of its popularity. I feel like when it first came in cinemas, it didn't create big waves. It came out around similar time as The Sixth Sense,
right?
Another ghost movie known for its big twist.
Yeah.
And I think this kind of got buried, underneath a wave of other similar types of films. But for me, it stood the test of time better than any of those others.
Completely,
yeah, it's
completely.
amazing.
But yeah, those others, the others.
The Others.
Which again, another Lost reference. The Others.
Of course.
Sorry, I got to
love
stop.
It. No, it's
gotta
fine, it's
stop.
fine. I love it. Brilliant. Thank you so much for joining me.
Mate,
once
it's
again.
absolutely my pleasure.
It's been
Thank
so
you.
much fun. Just one more time, where can people find you online?
So I'm on Jacob_Stol, which is STOL minus the E. tweet about film, TV, music
Tweet
quite
about
regularly.
things.
Yeah. And yeah, The Lost Boys, if people want to come along for the ride,
I would hugely recommend anyone who's a fan of Lost.
We
I'm
want
loving
you
it.
on.
Oh, please
come on.
Anytime.
Let us know what episode you like and you can come on.
Anytime.
Yeah.
Just give me a shout. I'm always happy to.
Thank you.
To
Thank
talk
you for
Lost.
having me back on.
No problem. And that's it for this week. Thank you so much for listening, and a huge thank you to my guest, the brilliant Jacob Stolworthy. Now, don't forget, if you are a Lost fan, you must check out his podcast, The Lost Boys. You can find that on iTunes, and any other details of Jacob's will be listed in the show notes. So please do get in touch with us. What did you think of this week's show? What do you think of the Paranormal Activity franchise? Do you have a favourite one in the series? Can you make heads or tails of all this weird portal, time-travelling, witch coven business? Because I can't really get my head around it. Get in touch. The email address is evolutionofhorror@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter @evolutionpod or on Facebook. That's facebook.com/evolutionofhorror. And don't forget, you can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Libsyn, any major podcast platform. And if you get a chance, if you are an iTunes user, please do subscribe, hit that subscribe button, and also leave a little rating or review, preferably a 5-star one. It really gives the podcast a boost. It helps it gets discovered by new listeners. And if you do give me a review, I will be sure to give you a special thank you and a shout out on the podcast. So we've nearly reached the end. Only a couple more movies to discuss this series, and next week we're going to be covering a biggie. It's a movie that's been brought up a lot across the series in both positive and negative ways. There are a lot of hardened horror fans that find these movies maybe a little bit contrived, a little bit unoriginal. Myself included, I have been a bit critical of this movie and of this director quite a few times in the past, but I am really looking forward now to going back, revisiting this movie and giving it a proper second chance. So next week, I'm going to be talking about James Wan's 2013 smash hit, The Conjuring. And we're also going to be talking about its sequel, The Conjuring 2, from a couple of years later. We're going to be discussing both those movies in spoilerific detail. And joining me to discuss these movies, one of my favourite people. She's back on the podcast a second time. She was here a few weeks ago discussing The Shining with me, Scotland's finest, the brilliant Louise Blaine. We'll be back to discuss these movies. She's a big fan of these movies, so it's probably good to have at least one defending voice on this franchise. So join me next week for all of this and more on the evolution of horror.